Hi guys, today we are going to discuss the recent controversy that propped up between India and Nepal with respect to their border, and we'll also discuss some shrewd comments made by KP Oli, their Prime Minister. We'll start with the background of this issue, basically the relationship between Nepal and India. Then we'll come on to the controversy and then understand as to what the controversy is all about. In the end, we'll try and look into a China angle to this issue. Okay, so between India and Nepal, there always have been a friendly relationship. In fact, in 1950, India and Nepal entered into a treaty called the Indo-Nepal Treaty for Friendship and Peace. And this treaty gave a special relationship between India and Nepal, wherein Nepali people were allowed to work in India in the government departments as well. In fact, the people of Nepal and India are given almost equal opportunities as given to a citizen in India in the educational as well as the economic sector. They're also allowed in the Indian army. Okay, so that is the privilege that is given to the people of Nepal and India. And we know that Nepal is one country where Indians do not require a visa or a passport to get in, right? And same for the Nepalis in India as well, right? So that is some privileges that is given by both countries to each other. So till 2008, Nepal was a country which was ruled by a monarchy for more than 240 years. Okay, in 2008, the Constitutional Assembly of Nepal was constituted, and in 2015 they came up with a constitution finally. And now, like India and Nepal as well, there is a president who is the head of the state and there is a prime minister who is the head of the government. So now let's understand as to what this border controversy is all about. Okay, so in 1816, between the British East India Company and the Nepali rulers, there was this treaty signed called the Treaty of Sugauli. Now, what was this treaty all about was, this treaty divided the states of India and Nepal. So basically, there was a demarcation of the two countries by a river called River Kali. So River Kali is presently situated in the state of Uttarakhand, and at that time River Kali was considered a between line, basically a border line between India and Nepal. So everything on the eastern side was Nepal and everything on the west was India. Now over the course of 200 years, Indians believe that the river Kali or Mahakali originates from this place called Kalapani. So as you can see on your screen, these are three of the most important places that we're going to discuss in this session: Kalapani, Lipulekh and Limpiyadhura. Okay, so now the Indians believe that Kalapani is the origin of the Kali river, and from there the demarcation was made. So as per the Indian map which was made by British India, and Indian also inherited it in 1947 after independence, all these three places fall in the Indian territory, just on the border of Nepal. Okay, particularly Kalapani is just on the border of Nepal. Now, after the independence of India, both the countries believed that there were certain parts of the boundary between India and Nepal which was very confusing because they were demarcated by the Britishers and were not properly done. So in 1981, they formed a committee called the Joint Technical Level Boundary Committee and gave the task to this committee to finally demarcate and basically do away with all the confusion. So in 1981, the committee took this task upon itself. Now in 1996, a treaty was signed called the Treaty of Mahakali, wherein Indian government wanted to build a hydel project over River Kali. Now you must understand that when a project like this is going to be built on a river which is in two countries, okay, River Kali is in Nepal as well as in India, so a treaty has to be signed with the other country. So India signed a treaty with Nepal. Now that was for the very first time in 1997, this issue of boundary between India and Nepal cropped up. Okay, now obviously this was transferred to the 1981 committee that was formed for this particular reason. The problem was 98% of the border was finally decided by this committee. Okay, so for your knowledge, Nepal shares boundary with 5 Indian states. Okay, so all the other problems or the basically other disputes related to other borders between India and Nepal were solved by this particular committee. However, this Kalapani issue was not solved, and in 2008 when the monarchy ended, this committee also was dissolved. Now that was one point wherein nothing could happen with respect to this line. Now what is the main issue is, so in 2019, as in one of the sessions I've in detail discussed about the Jammu and Kashmir Reorganization Act of 2019, which was passed in August. So in 2019, when this act was passed, the Indian government came up with a new map of India on 2nd November 2019. Now this new map had all these three places within the Indian territory. और नया मैप आया क्यों था? Because they wanted to show Jammu and Kashmir and Ladakh as a union territory. But it created a lot of controversy in Nepal because these three places were in India. Alright, now another issue was that on 8th November, just 6 days after releasing this map, the Indian government releases another edition, which was the 9th edition of the map, wherein they deleted River Kali. And again, all these three places were in India. Okay, now this was a huge matter of controversy, and this controversy further accelerated because on May 8th, 2020, Rajnath Singh further inaugurated a road in Lipulekh Pass. Okay, it was an 80-kilometer road that Mr. Rajnath Singh inaugurated. Now the problem is that Lipulekh Path is a very important and a strategic path for India to Tibet. It's a very important trade route for India, and India has been using it for years, in fact for hundreds of years. Alright. Now let's understand as to how did Nepal retaliate to this. Okay, so Nepal amended their constitution and came up with a new map. Okay, on 22nd May 2020, very recently, they released a new map where all these three important places, which is Kalapani, Lipulekh and Limpiyadhura, falls in Nepal. Okay, so the logic behind this is Nepali government argues that river Kali does not originate from Kalapani. It originates from Limpiyadhura. Okay, so if this logic is to be considered, then 335 kilometers of area that is with India at this point in time will fall to Nepal, and Nepal did exactly the same. Basically, in their new map, they marked this area as the Nepali area. Alright, now it is also to be noted that from 1979, this Lipulekh area is manned by the ITBP, Indo-Tibetan Border Force, which is the Indian force there. Okay, so this has been in the Indian hands for many years, okay, for hundreds of years. So this was one of the issues. Now this move of Nepal was considered by Indians as an unjustified cartographic assertion. Okay, that was the expression that was used. Now what has happened because of this? The Prime Minister of Nepal, Mr. KP Oli, has started making really absurd comments on India. So he's saying that India has been involving itself or basically intervening in the internal politics of Nepal a lot. Very recently, he came up with the most illogical reasoning ever. He said that Lord Ram does not belong to India and Ayodhya is basically a fiction which is Indian government or basically India has created. Lord Ram actually was a Nepali by origin. Okay, so this created a lot of controversy wherein people of Nepal itself opposed it a lot. Okay, so that is something which is happening. Now the critics believe that this move of Nepal as well as certain illogical comments by Mr. KP Oli is because of the Chinese intrusion into Nepal. Now, in what sense? So, Nepal is basically a buffer state between China and India. So, if China want to intrude into India, it has to cross Nepal from that side. Alright, and if it takes control of Nepal, then it becomes very easy to control India from that part. Now, India and Nepal have always had really friendly relationship. Now, China has recently started interfering in the new government that has been set up in Nepal and has been investing a lot of money in infrastructure, education and so on. So, it is believed that it is China that is speaking from the mouth of the Prime Minister KP Oli. This is what the critics believe. So this is one of the speculation. There is no proof of it, but this is being argued in the entire Indian media at this point in time. So I hope you understood this session. You understood the controversy behind Indian and Nepal border dispute. If you have any doubts, you can mention it in the comment box. You can write on our email ID, which is mentioned in the description box. Thank you. If you like our sessions, please subscribe to our channel and press the bell icon so that you don't miss any updates from us. Thank you.